Ryan Reynolds here for, I guess, my 100th Mint commercial. No, don't. I mean, honestly, when I started this, I thought I only have to do like 4 of these. I mean, it's unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month. How are there still people paying 2 or 3 times that much? I'm sorry, I shouldn't be victim blaming here. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/save. Whenever you're ready.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
Hello and welcome to Audiobook Connection, behind the scenes with the creative teams. I'm Becky Parker-Geist and I'm your host. Audiobook Connection is your place to learn about the audiobook creative process and for authors to learn valuable tips on producing and marketing your audiobooks. This podcast is sponsored by Pro Audio Voices, helping great stories come alive through audiobook production and marketing. Hi, I'm Becky Parker-Geist. I'm the CEO of Pro Audio Voices. We provide audiobook production, distribution, and marketing. And today we're going to talk a bit about artificial intelligence. Before we get started, I'd like to ask you a question. Who are you? Now, what was your experience of your mind starting to answer that question? I would venture to say that most likely you started to think up words, phrases, ways to describe who you are. And that goes right to my point of what we are and who we are. I believe we are story. We are creators. We experience our lives as narrative. If you're telling somebody about your day, you're telling a narrative. If you're describing how you're feeling about something, it's a narrative. This is how we experience our lives. One of the things I love about audiobooks, and always have, is how it transcends time and space. I am in a recording booth right now, and I'm talking to you. Now, in this moment that I'm experiencing, you aren't listening yet. But when you're listening, I will no longer be speaking. However, I'm here in spirit, and I do believe that that is what crosses that time and space barrier. In addition, obviously, there is a technology that's involved here. That's all great, but I think there's a lot more to it. I think there's something really essential, something very fundamental, because I'm not just talking to a microphone, talking to a computer. I'm talking to the people that are going to be listening to this later. So, the other thing is that audiobooks tend to be very intimate, very personal experience. And that is a part of why it is so important that I be truly present with you across time and space. We most often are listening to audiobooks through headphones or earbuds, something that's going directly into our ears. And that helps to create the sense of it being a very intimate experience. Again, we are creators. We are artists. And a part of what narrators bring to the very audiobook production process is a whole other palette of performance. This is something I had a wonderful conversation with on this podcast in episode 139 when I talked with Joshua Townsend in our first episode together. We also talked again more recently, episode 153. I highly recommend both of those. Very interesting conversations. We talked about that additional palette, bringing that additional palette to the table, to the recording. That is not just the actors. It can also be if there's a director involved. There's also an audio engineer involved. So there's lots of pieces to the puzzle. People, real people, who are bringing their palette to the process. If you think about societies that flourish, where arts are flourishing, there is more often, when arts are at the forefront, there is a greater sense of meaning, a greater sense of joy, of inspiration, the feeling that life is worth living. It's inspiring. And when we move away from or get disconnected from the arts, we tend to see more depression, more anxiety, more mental illness. This is also very true with our connection to the earth, with nature. We hear more and more these days about forest bathing, which is all about just going out to the forest and being there, bathing in that experience. It's so critical to our well-being. So, let's talk a little bit more about AI. Now, technology, artificial intelligence, can solve many, many problems and be helpful in solving many problems. And from my perspective, some of the best ways that it is helpful is when it's helping to eliminate things, jobs, of things that we don't want to do as humans. We just don't want to do them. And so either because they're repetitive and boring or, some other reason. But having technology come and solve problems like that is great. For example, people who don't like to fumble with paper maps and try to figure out how to refold them so they actually fit properly back in the glove compartment, GPS is a wonderful solution. Also helps us not get lost quite so frequently, although sometimes it may send us around the block a few times or down potholed roads, but that's improved as well, so we're not having that happen quite as much as we did at first. There's a great place for artificial intelligence. And there are many other industries in which AI is really valuable, really helping to meet an actual need. Now, when AI steps into the audiobook world, I want to talk a little bit more about what problem are they trying to actually solve, and is that the way that it's working out or might work out? So we're going to dive a little more into that right after this pause.
Frustrated by the royalty rates for your audiobook? Annoyed that when the digital distributors say 70%, they actually mean 70% of 50% or 80% of 70%, neither of which is an actual 70%. Wishing there was a way to cut out or at least shrink the middleman. Yet, you want your audiobook listeners to have a smooth and positive experience, and a direct download sale from your website won't deliver that. Pro Audio Voices hears you. Out of our commitment to our author clients, we've created Amplify, a program that provides an actual 65% royalties of the price you set, that gives you access to your customers' names and emails so you can reconnect with them, and keeps you in the driver's seat. Check it out at proaudiovoices.com in the marketing menu.
Okay, so let's take a look at what is the problem that AI in the audiobook world is purporting that they solve. Well, from all that I've read, it's about solving the problem of the fact that producing an audiobook is expensive when you have to hire a narrator. It's true that hiring a narrator can be expensive, especially a really great narrator. And there is great value as well that is created in that process. So the value of a great audiobook is that you have people that really want to listen to it. That is great value. It goes well beyond just having a recorded version of your words. So much further beyond that. So if, in fact, this is the problem that they're trying to solve, it seems that cost is really all that they're saying matters. If cost is all that matters, let's look at that in the big picture, then really we are simply consumers. And in fact, that is a paradigm our language drives forward every day. We are very intentionally trained to be consumers, to think like consumers, and especially to act like consumers. And I will point you to a wonderful animated short video on YouTube called The Story of Stuff that I saw many years ago and was really impactful. It really stayed with me. I highly recommend it. So when we say affordable, we're talking about the authors being able to afford the production of an audiobook. Let's broaden the picture just a little bit. What happens to those artists and creators who are no longer being able to earn their income from the creative work that they do? What happens to their ability to afford their needs? That's big picture. Now, let's talk about what do we aspire to. If, in fact, democratizing affordability so that authors can get their books into audio, there are many very impactful things that could change to make that happen much more quickly. The first is change the royalty structures. Do you know that Audible takes at least 75%, if it's non-exclusive, of every audiobook sale? Now, keep in mind that they have not paid for the production. They have not paid for any of the creative process, the typically years that it takes to create the content in the first place, or any of the book production process, which is actually required by Audible in order to have an audiobook. They're not doing any of the marketing for it. They've created a platform, and now, they're offering that, but at such a high cost. So, and that's not an unusual model. They're just the extreme because they take such a high percentage. The challenge is with, you may say, oh, no, they pay 40% of if you go exclusive. There are other podcast episodes where I'll go deeper into why that's not a great idea. But even so, they are also controlling a lot of other factors that impact the royalties that an author actually receives. So that is the number one way, in my mind, to start to make that affordability more democratized. At Pro Audio Voices, we have actively stepped up to create an author direct sales platform, Amplify Audiobooks, to address this very issue, to turn that formula on its head. Some other things that we can do to democratize affordability, there are things that are major stumbling blocks depending on what kind of solution you're trying to provide. One is the tech giants, Apple and Google, taking 30% of every in-app purchase. It's made it harder for all the audiobook retailers and delivery services to be able to deliver the audiobooks without paying exorbitant fees to the tech giants who, again, yes, they provided a platform, but 30% is a really high amount to be charging for the service that they're providing. Okay, and big picture is you want to democratize affordability? Let's work towards changing the societal income barriers that have been systematically and systemically put in place to maintain income disparity. Now, there are lots of organizations and wonderful people who are working on that big problem in big ways. And I don't pretend that that's going to be, that that's easy or that that's a simple fix. I'm just pointing out that AI narrating audiobooks is not truly a solution to a problem. In fact, the scrambling for AI and the eagerness to use it for audiobooks, let's just be real, it has to do with profit. It's not about great art. It's not about creating better audiobooks. The tech giants and those who are stepping up to eagerly push AI for audiobooks, it's a way to divert money either going to artists or maybe not being spent, but to go to them so that they get a piece of the action. It is one more way for them to create a cheaper product, not a better one, not better for the authors and not better for the listeners, but a better one for the people creating the AI delivery system to add to their bottom line. We are story. We are creators. Let's hold to that value and that knowledge as we move forward in the audiobook world. We are story. We are creators. And artificial intelligence cannot replace us. Thanks for joining us for Audiobook Connection, behind the scenes with the creative teams. Please take a moment to subscribe at audiobookconnection.com. The podcast is sponsored by Pro Audio Voices, helping great stories come alive through audiobook production and marketing. Learn more at proaudiovoices.com. Again, thanks for being with us, and please join us next week.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.